Today we will be working on a poster, a really cool design, which is based on one of our briefs that we use for our pro membership, where our students can submit their work. And this is a fairly recent brief that we created. And I don't believe we got many submissions for it yet. That's why I'm not going to show them. But I want to quickly go through the brief, so just so you all understand what I'm going to do. So this is a design that we have to do for an organic supermarket called Nurture. That's the name. So that's the brand that we came up with. Obviously, this is a fictional brief, so it's all made up, but it's going to look very similar to a real professional graphic design project that I would be working on for a client. And I will do everything from scratch. So in this workshop, that's the whole point, that I'm doing everything from scratch. So I haven't prepared anything. I have some ideas, obviously. I thought about it and I have some references collected, but I haven't done any sketches. I haven't done anything. So everything, you will see the entire workflow, and I will try to do as much as possible within 3 hours. Usually that's the amount of time I want to give myself for these workshops, and we'll see what happens. So the name is Nurture. That's going to really affect the compositions that I'm going to create, and the task is to create striking visuals that looks appetizing and beautiful. So because it's an organic supermarket, food products will obviously be the key elements, or they will be the main subject, but I want to create something clever, something creative. And so here's a couple of additional pointers. So one of the key messages on the poster has to be that all produce are organic and healthy. That's very important, hence the name Nurture. Then we have to focus on grocery products like vegetables, dairy products, meat, etc. And ideas for the composition that the client came up with is a scenic landscape made entirely of food, or clever combination of food and typography. And we can obviously come up with different compositions as well if we want to. And this is where I will need everyone taking part in this session, in this workshop. I would like you to help me. So when I'm coming up with ideas, I would like to get some input from you. I want to make it really feel like we are working as a team. So feel free to use the chat and let me know your ideas and anything that comes to mind while I'm working on this. And of course, you can follow along and work with me. So while I'm creating my posters, feel free to do yours as well, or maybe just sketches. And of course, if you want, you can obviously follow along later, or if you're watching the recorded session, you can also just follow step by step what I'm doing. Now, so there's a couple of tagline ideas as well. One of them is fresh from farm to your fork, naturally delicious, organic goodness in every bite, pure produce, pure joy, so on and so forth. So there's a couple of good taglines there that we could use. And the details that we have to include on this poster are the name, obviously, Nurture, the tagline of our choice, and then the design needs to be witty, inspiring, and imaginative, and the style should be photorealistic, but the clever use of 3D or illustration can also be applied. And obviously, we have complete creative freedom on how we want to put things together. So the references that I have here, a couple of them that I prepared, some of them are AI generated. I often use tools like Midjourney or Firefly or Magnific to just quickly come up with some ideas and just to test how something would look like, just to get a feel for a composition. But today we will be testing out a couple of generative AI tools. Most importantly, I want to spend time with ChatGPT. The new image generation in ChatGPT 4.0 is quite good. It improved a lot since their big update last week. So I want to see whether it can compete with the other tools that I normally work with, like Magnific. And Magnific also just released very recently the improved structure and style reference. Now they can work together when you're using Mystic, their image generation option, which I believe is going to be the best. I'm always preferring to do things in Magnific if I can, out of the AI tools. And then there's obviously Midjourney as well, also just recently announced the Midjourney 7. So if we go into versions now, we can choose 7, which is brand new, literally just out yesterday. So that's again something we can try out. There's also a couple of new features like the draft mode. So we can experiment with all of these. And if you are interested to see what can be achieved with generative AI, this is definitely going to be an interesting session. And we will be going into these quite a lot. But I want to make it clear in the beginning that I won't be relying on generative AI to create a final product. So the poster itself is not going to be entirely made with AI. I will try to utilize AI as much as possible to speed things up. Because normally, if I have a project, a complex project like this, especially if I want to do multiple designs, different directions, it would take a couple of days. I wouldn't be able to do it within 3 hours. But that's one of the advantages of generative AI, that it can speed things up and we can come up with quick ideas faster, but they will look already quite polished because of the nature of generative AI. It can create very highly detailed compositions for us. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I haven't prepared anything, and generative AI is one of those things that you can't really prepare anyway. If I want to demonstrate how I generate images, they will always be different, so you can't really plan much, apart from maybe some prompts, but I haven't even prepared prompts. So let's have a look at the setup in Photoshop and Procreate. I will be using as well to do some sketches. But before I go there, before I forget, I wanted to just mention that our currently running design contest, which is free to join, it's an amazing brief, and this is for a real client, Amazon A, the charity, who has this curriculum about the it's about the deforestation and gold mining in the Amazon region, and basically we have to design posters for that. I was thinking whether I should do a poster for this in today's session, but I already planned to do the supermarket brief, so I know obviously I don't want to influence people who are working on this contest, so I just wanted to make sure it is mentioned, and the link is here. I'm just going to drop it in the chat as well. But if you want to find it, just go to yesimadesigner.com, free learning design contests, and within there you will be able to find the most recent one, which is this one. And we have some awesome prizes for those who join, and of course the winner's work, who is going to be chosen by the client, will be used throughout. I mean, in many places it will be printed and used in schools, most likely in the US, but maybe all around the world as well. So if you want to check it out, it's right here. And if you want to be notified anytime that we release new contests, just sign up here on the right side. So this is going to make sure that you will get announcements about these contests. Okay, by the way, we still have another contest that we haven't wrapped, the kitchen product range packaging design, also for a client, but the deadline for that was today, I believe, or maybe yesterday. If anyone is still just about to submit the work, it probably will still, we will be able to send it to the client, but the deadline was yesterday, so that's just wrapping up. And about that, we're most likely not going to have a live review. We will be announcing the winner in an email and on social media, so if you follow us anywhere, you will find out about the results there. But we will decide. We might still do a quicker live session too about that, depending on the amount of work that we get. All right, cool. Thank you, Robin. I'm looking forward to the work that you will create. And by the way, I can see Roland is recommending a concept. Your idea is that we can have a carefree, say, eat out, how to eat like there's no tomorrow, except there is a tomorrow. This is the real world. That's a quite good one. I like that one. All right, but let's get started with our poster. So all I will need really, and I'm going to work in Photoshop. It's probably the easiest one to work in for this type of projects. So what I'm going to do is to start with, we could even use this template that I created before. For some reason, Photoshop is just not working right now. Maybe I haven't updated my beta in a while. Maybe that could be the cause. I'm just going to restart it quickly. I always ignore the update option. Never really have time to do it. But let's see. All right, there we are. So if we just jump into new file, I want to have a good format like the 24 by 36 inches is quite big. It's good for an advertisement poster. Of course, it could be bigger than that, but we will go with this. And for now, I'm going to work in RGB, although it is mainly meant for print, but it's also going to be used on the web. So I will be I will go with RGB, and the resolution I will set to 72 pixels per inch, which means we will have the resolution around this much. Actually, let's see if I go up to, let's just go with 72 for now, but I'm going to increase this a little bit by going back here. And then let's just do 150 pixels per inch. I think that will give us more pixels. So let's just create this. Just going to check. So 3600 by 5400. That looks good. And actually, it probably would make sense to update Photoshop just to make sure that we can have all the latest features. So for now, I'm just going to save this file. I like to start with a gray black background, by the way, most of the time. I will save this file on my desktop, just so we have it ready. And then I will switch over to, jump back to my iPad. In the background, I'm just going to quickly update Photoshop beta apps, update available. Let's just do that quickly. There it is. Okay, just to make sure that we are using the latest Firefly or generative AI within Photoshop, because we will be utilizing that most likely. So here on my iPad, I have a quick thumbnail sketch layout where I can quickly mock up some ideas. So what I'm going to do is I am going to draw over these and come up with a few concepts. So every time I work on a design, it's almost impossible for me to start working without having some visual notes, basically these thumbnail sketches on how I imagine my compositions. And this is for me to record my ideas, directions, and any ideas that come up when I'm thinking about this project. So one of my ideas is that obviously we want to have a nice landscape made up entirely of food. So the way I would do this is I would have in this portrait format, I would have like a nice rolling hills landscape. So it would be like something like that. Maybe that one can be a bit smaller in the background, or maybe we can have something like that in the background. And then I would want to have a key feature, which could be a building, a structure. And in this case, probably I would go for a windmill. I'm thinking a windmill would be nice. I'm thinking agriculture. Obviously, that's like nicely connects into an organic farming or organic produce. So a windmill maybe somewhere around here on this side could be a nice key feature detail that we can highlight. And notice how I already planned my composition in a way that this is utilizing the rule of thirds. So that's like one of the intersection points there on the right, and it's in the midground, so we would have something here in the foreground. Most likely we could have like a tractor going down here again, just to go with the farm theme. Could have the tractor going down, and then we can have the rows of produce showing there. We can have rows of produce showing in this direction, and then maybe in the background we can have a city as well. Could work. Or we could just have the clouds in the sky. So that's just a very quick mock-up, an idea of how this could look like. Just going to tidy up a little bit the sketch, make sure the foreground and background details set up correctly. So yeah, there's our windmill. We can have a little door on it, windows, and then maybe a little bit more detail here on it, just so we can see what it is. All right, so that's one sketch done. Now let's move on to the next one. The next one, I want to have something that is a little bit more witty, a bit more eye-catching, and maybe even a little bit provocative, if possible. What I thought about, again, nurture, going with the word nurture, we could have maybe two vegetables or two fruits, or maybe even a vegetable and a fruit, set up as the father and the mother, so the parents essentially, and then they would be holding a baby, their baby, and if it's two different things, so let's say a broccoli and a banana, then we would have a baby that looks like a broccoli banana. So like an interracial couple, in this case two different types of vegetable or fruit. I think that would be quite fun, and it could be the perfect type of thing that we can do with generative AI. It would be quite tricky to do this without it, but I think with generative AI we will be able to do something really fun like that. So what my main question is to everyone who's watching live, what should be the two parents? So I said broccoli and banana is quite good, because I can imagine how that would look like if you mix the two together, but it could be anything else. It could be, I don't know, a carrot and a asparagus, I guess. What else? And also, by the way, we will have to anthropomorphize. I don't know the word. We have to make the characters look like people, so they will have to have a head, arms, to be able to hold the baby. So anthropomorphic characters we need. So any vegetable or fruit that could be turned into people or make it look like people would work well, in my opinion. So we see from Janelle, we have cucumber and carrot. Yeah, I like that. So they are similar shape. The only thing is, if they are similar shaped, then the baby would look like, I guess, a carrot shape but with cucumber colors. Yeah. It might actually work better if we have two very different, like let's say a pineapple and a cucumber, because then you could have a long shape but still looking like a pineapple. So like two different shapes is ideal, and very different in color and texture would be good. Broccoli and carrot, yeah, I think they are quite good. Robin is saying broccoli and carrot. Yeah, maybe let's go with broccoli and carrot for now. So I'm just going to draw this quickly. we will have our broccoli parent on one side. Let's make the body a bit bigger. And holding the baby. And then we have the carrot. Holding the baby with the other arm. And then we would have the little carrot broccoli baby in their hand. Yeah, something like that. Okay, lovely. Yeah, and then obviously what we will do around them, we can decide. By the way, it's also possible to have the two vegetables, in this case, forming a heart shape. Wouldn't be bad. Just like as a like a hidden message in there. We wouldn't make it too obvious, but they could form a heart shape. Could be nice. And yeah, I think that's quite good. And obviously we can have our text on the top, nurture. I'm just going to write it down, and then the tagline below. So in this case, because we will have like a quite unique composition, it doesn't really need much environment. I imagine this being on a white background, because here it's really the center stage is these 2 or 3 characters. And it's very important to, whenever you have like a funny or creative idea like this, it's very important that before you commit to it and before you start exploring it, even if you're using generative AI, first you really have to think about the brief. Is this really going to help the client or the service? So it's an organic supermarket, and we want to obviously highlight the fact that it's organic, and we want to play on the name of the brand, which is Nurture. So in this case, I feel like we are hitting quite a good sweet spot. And yeah, we are creative. The idea is quite creative, unique. It would be grabbing people's attention if they see this on the street, and it can also be part of the brand identity for the store to be maybe using these characters more. They could become like mascots. So there's a lot of potential in this. Now let's move on to another idea. Another idea would be more typography based, and by the way, I will try to do all 3 of these, or if I have more ideas, or if we come up with more ideas, I will try to do the 3 best ideas. But my other idea was to have the text made up of food, and this is actually fairly easy. So again, what we would do is we would use the text. Now this word is made up of 7 letters. If I want to make the text really big, I would be able to write it down in various ways. I think probably the easiest way would be, if we want to make it big, is if I do NU, just going to test this out quickly, RTUR, and then the E. That's the thing. We could have it here, and then this is where the tagline would go, right? So that's one way of doing it. But if we don't want the letters to be so big, and by the way, so this, imagine that these would be made of all kinds of food product. So it could be peas. One of the letter is made up of peas. Another one is made up of something else. So yeah, it's all made up of food parts or like ingredients. Another thing that we could do is to have a nice 3D text and just surround it or intertwine it with food. So for instance, we could have a nice N floating around like that, and obviously it would be 3D. And then we want to have these produce like a carrot floating around in front of it, and then we would have the U in a different angle behind the carrot, and so on and so forth. So that's also something that we could explore, and I think it would look quite nice as well. So once again, you just have these like a tomato floating around here, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to draw the whole thing, you can probably imagine it. Now, the other idea, of course, is to do a different landscape. So the original landscape of this agricultural scene could be adapted to anything. It could be a seaside with a lighthouse. It could be even something more medieval, maybe like a castle, could look quite nice, made up all entirely of food. But the key point is that we really want to sell the organic aspect. So nothing really too urban or anything that's too like modern and technological. So that's why I think like these themes could work quite nicely. Any like nice landscapes and scenery that's more natural, I think could work well. But then again, juxtaposition work really well on posters. So we could think of clever ways of doing a scene which is more futuristic, and then maybe contrast the organic details inside it. But that's maybe something we can think about later. For now, I think we have enough ideas here, so we can just roll with these. And literally that's all I needed to get my ideas going. So I think after this we can just jump straight back into Photoshop, and hopefully it's going to work fine. I have my little water break. Let's just close this. We jump into Photoshop. And it's time to open up our template, which I may have lost. Let me just have a look. Yeah, I didn't save it last time, but it's already set up here for us, so it's fine. Let's go with that. Beautiful. And then, so this is what we would want to work with now. Before I do anything, I think we can test out a couple of these ideas in the different AI tools that I mentioned earlier. So maybe let's start with ChatGPT. I'm going to say create a portrait format poster for an organic supermarket, which shows a scenic agricultural landscape with rolling hills, a windmill, a tractor in the foreground. I will be more specific, a windmill in the midground, and blue sky in the back, blue sky and fluffy clouds in the background. Hills, yes. And then I want it to be everything is made of food products, like vegetables, fruit, meat, etc. All right. I think that's enough. Now I'm going to copy this and use it in Magnific as well. So I just drop the same prompt in here, and we will be able to use structure reference. Even just that simple sketch that I created, I think we will be able to use, and obviously style reference. But first, I just want to do one that is going to be just a simple default without any changing any settings. I'm going to use the 4:3, actually 2:3 portrait format. And yeah, I'm not going to do anything special here. Maybe do 4 images to start with. So actually 2 will be enough, I think. It will give us an idea of what it can do. Okay, so Mystic 2.5, and then let's also do the same in Midjourney. So we dropped our prompt in here. Let's go into settings, and I'm going to test the latest model, version 7, and I'm going to use the default stylization of 100. I will use portrait size and maybe 2:3. Yeah, it's better. And that's it for now. I'm not going to again assign or use any references for now. Oh yes, we haven't unlocked personalization, but I actually didn't want to use personalization. I thought I turned it off. Let me just check. So I thought I don't have the personalization on. Yeah, I thought it's fine like this. Continue, unlock personalization. Yeah, so to be able to use the latest version, we would have to unlock our profile first. I'm not sure why it's restricting us to use personalization. It should just allow us not to use it, but I can't see an option to turn it off here, only up here, but it just says off. So yeah, that's a little bit strange. Let's just go with 6.1 then. For that, I could turn on personalization, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to use the default Midjourney engine. And then let's jump back to ChatGPT. So this is what we got. Not bad. It's really close to what I drew, funnily enough, without saying where I want the windmill to be exactly and the tractor. It already placed it almost exactly where I put them. And I actually really like the style and the aesthetic of this like retro, like old paper, and also the text works quite nicely. So it did a really good job. And most of the food products look actually fine, like recognizable. We have the pumpkins, lettuce, broccoli, yeah, maybe broccoli wheels on the tractor, meat, avocado. Yeah, it looks actually quite good. The only thing is obviously that the windmill itself is not made of food, and the tractor, you could argue, is made up of broccoli and meat, maybe. The fields look like made up of corn, which is quite nice. So yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. So this is ChatGPT I'm using. ChatGPT's image generation is relying on DALL-E, or the DALL-E engine. So it is not bad. Yeah, Valentina, it's quite astonishing. If we just look at this side by side with my sketch, it's pretty much identical, which is crazy. Yeah, it's almost as if the AI read my mind. Now, let's look at Magnific. So one of the things that I don't think I specified in my prompt is that I want it to be photographic, so not illustrative. I want it to really look like real food products. So that was my fault, but that's one thing that you have to do with prompts. You have to refine it and you add those details later. So this one is Magnific, and it created more realistic looking compositions. And yeah, it's this is quite nice, but it doesn't look like the the landscape itself is made up of vegetables. It's more like just they are like there on the fields, ready to be picked. So yeah, it's not 100%. It's not exactly what I described. And then let's look at Midjourney. Okay, so Midjourney is doing a really good job at building up like a miniature of the landscape. Again, the composition is very similar to what I had in mind, the tractor there and the windmill in the background or foreground, midground. Again, quite nice. So these four are all in Midjourney. So yeah, not bad. Not bad. Obviously, the tractor is all messed up, but that can easily be fixed. But I actually really like the composition here, having these big out of focus details in the foreground and having the windmill, the way it's set up, it's actually really nice. Again, it's exactly in the same position that I had in mind. The meat looks quite funny or a bit strange on the field, like a field of meat, but I think it's quite fun still. So let's just look at these other ones once again. This is quite nice as well. I like this too. But again, here it's more like an actual field with produce on it that can be harvested. So it's not really like these miniature looking ones where we actually see that the landscape is made up of vegetables. Now, let's refine our prompt first. Once we refine our prompt, that's when we can start adding structure and style references. So this is usually like just a first step to see what happens. This is what I do. And then second step would be to add a bit more information. So create a portrait format poster for an organic supermarket, which shows in photorealistic style. I will say stylized photorealistic style, like a miniature. I think that's enough. So we just tweaked it slightly, and I will say don't add any text on it. I can do that. I don't need the AI to do that for me. Yeah, I think that's enough. So let's just do this here, then jump into Magnific, update our prompt, and we can run it with these settings, the same settings that I had before. Now the model we could adjust, but in this case I will keep it flexible, although fluid is quite nice. That fluid model, just so you know, the model that one adheres to the prompt really well. So I'm going to just switch to that just to test it out. And again, I'm going to generate 2 images. And then in Midjourney, I am going to drop in my new updated prompt, and I am going to stick to the same settings here. So I'm just going to create that, and then we will see what happens. So if I jump back to ChatGPT, it takes longer usually, and it only generates 1 image. That's the main difference compared to the other tools, but it's still worth using it, testing it out. As we've seen, that was probably one of the best results that we got, although it was more illustrative, but we could use this as a structure reference. So if you like this, because we could use this in let's say Magnific as a structure reference, or if we like the style, then we could go use it as a style reference as well. Okay, I think I made a mistake and I chose landscape, or yeah, I forgot to change this to portrait, traditional in this case. Yeah, traditional, and then generate. But we can just have a look at these two that it's generated for us. Not bad, but it just looks like a generic miniature. The landscape is not really made up of food products. By the way, it's quite fast. It generated it quickly. This is probably the closest to what I had in mind out of the generated examples here within Magnific. So this is actually quite nice. But again, it's more just like a miniature. The actual details, they are not like showing food products. Maybe a little bit here on the windmill, we can see some food products. Not bad, but it's not what I had in mind. Okay, let's see Midjourney with this updated prompt. Yeah, this is quite interesting. Here we can really see the individual food details, and also on this one, and it really does feel like a miniature because of the shallow depth of field. So yeah, this is not bad, not bad. But now I think what we could do is, obviously, let's check ChatGPT as well. So ChatGPT, actually, one of the things with ChatGPT, which is also another advantage, is that it's going to automatically refine whatever you had before. So within a conversation, it has like a memory. It remembers the history of what you created, or the previously generated images. And if you don't specify that you want to change and you want to create a completely new one, it will assume that you want to improve the existing one or the previous one. And that's what we can see here, that it did pretty much exactly the same composition, but now it recreated it without text and with photorealistic details, and also applied a little bit more blur or shallow depth of field to make it work that way. So I am very impressed with OpenAI. They've done a really good job, and we can just check, if we open this up, that it is actually quite high resolution already. So we are looking at 1024 by 1536 pixels. It's not bad size already to work with. And the composition is almost exactly what I had in mind. The only issue here is that the windmill, I feel like, is not made up of food. So maybe that's something that we could improve on. I'm not sure what type of food it could be. But even if just the actual fans, or I don't know what they are called, these big details, or I guess they are called fans. The fans could be made of, let's say, giant carrots or something like that. So maybe that is something that we could change, or maybe the entire windmill could be made up of corn, like small pieces of corn. That could look quite nice as well. Yeah, the blades could be asparagus as well. Yeah, that's also a good idea. So first, I would like to try to use this as a structure reference in Magnific. So let's just see what happens then. So if we go into here and go to structure reference, I can add this image that we just downloaded. Okay. And then for now, I'm not going to use any style reference. Just simply run it as is. And let's generate 2 images again, maybe 3 this time. Let's just do 3 of them. Okay, and we'll find out what happens. I'm going to switch to grid view just so we can see what we are doing. And I'm going to do the same thing here in Midjourney. So I will reuse the prompt, and I will go into add images, and I'm going to upload the image that we wanted to use, which is this one. And I am going to use that. Oh, I just opened it now. So I wanted to drop it in here. And this is going to be used as our reference. And I like the way they improved the reference user interface for the references in Midjourney. It's much easier to see what you're using. So this is going to be used as a image prompt. So use the elements of this image. Essentially, that's a structure reference. And we are not using style reference yet, but that's again something that we can add later. And then for now, I think that's it. And then the portrait format is still on, so we can submit this. So let's see what Magnific has done, and it's still working on it. That's fine. While we are waiting for this, what we can also do in Photoshop to test out generative fill. So what we could do is to say we want this to be replaced with windmill made entirely up of corn. Let's just start with corn. Yellow would be quite a nice contrast on the blue and green, so I also think about that. It would stand out, and I think that should be enough. So let's see, generate. Now whenever you select something in Photoshop, so you make a selection over it, it tends to use it as a structure reference. So it would look at what's underneath that selection and it will try to replicate it. And it has done a quite good job. Look at this. So it's peas and corn, which makes even more sense. I like that. So that's a good idea. Thank you, Photoshop. It still looks like a windmill, although not as nice as the original, but this really fits our style and our composition. So we have obviously these bigger pieces in the foreground, like the pepper, the tomato, the meat, so on and so forth, and then we have that there, and we still have enough space for the text on the top. So I really like this. This is going well, but of course not all examples would work well. We could do another batch just to see what Photoshop will cook for us. And let's see where we get with that. Okay, not bad. Bit wonky. Yeah, this is not bad. I quite like the way it looks, but obviously it's missing a piece here, and maybe it could continue further up. The corn itself, it has again the same aesthetic, but I think this is still the better version. It has a little door and a window. Maybe I could add a bit of roof here. So if I just make a selection with the pen tool this time, and I will, let's just do this with a path. I'm just going to do like a roof on it, like that, and then maybe continue the roof this way. And then add a bit more there. Command Shift Enter is the way to quickly turn a path into a selection. So I'm curious to see what happens here. If I just say roof on windmill made of what would it be? Maybe carrots. I can imagine carrots looking a bit like a roof, like the tiles. Wheat is also a good idea. Yeah, we could use that as well. But let's just see how this looks. Okay, this is really bad. Yeah, I think we restricted the area too much with our selection. So I'm just going to ignore that for now, and I will stick to this. I will save this file already. I'll save it as landscape, and I'll create a new folder just so we have the nurture project files saved. Okay, now let's jump back to our generated images. So first up, we have our Magnific result of the most recent one, where we used an image as a structure reference. So the same composition, but it restyled a lot of things. The tractor is now not made up of food at all. Also, the windmill is just a normal windmill. And some of the food products like this one, which used to be a meat, is now something strange. Also, the avocado is made up of something else. So it obviously messed up a couple of nice details that we had. But we shouldn't be worried about that, because we can always combine these things together. So we can just use Photoshop and borrow elements that we like, and then we combine them together. So one thing that I quite like compared to what we have in Photoshop is the background. It's quite nice. So in Photoshop, it's a little bit too out of focus, while here there's a little bit more detail on it. But also worth mentioning that it's not made up of food anymore. So further in the background, it turns into a normal landscape. While here, we could still argue that everything in the background is also made up of food, because it's out of focus. We can't really tell what's going on there. So yeah, it's a softer look, and Robin is saying that you prefer that. And the next thing that I wanted to see is Midjourney. So again, Midjourney, we used the structure reference, but strangely, it didn't really use the same structure. Like, it moved the windmill around, moved the tractor around, and yeah, it just made a mess, really. So Midjourney structure reference is not as clever as the one in Magnific, in my opinion. It's not actually structure reference, that's the thing. It's a image prompt, they call it. So we can't consider it structure reference. And that's a shame that they don't have that. Most likely they will introduce it as well. But Magnific has done a good job with this, but I feel like it would be worth testing out my sketch as well. Even though it's extremely basic, I would still prefer to test it out. So I'm going to export it as a JPEG, and I will just cut out the bit that we need. So let me just drop it here on my computer from Procreate, and let's open that. No, that's not that one. It's a nice design by one of our students, Evie, but we have the sketch that I created. So I am just going to crop this out. That's all we need, and just crop it a little bit further in, so I don't want to have those outlines being part of it. Okay, so let's save this as a simple JPEG or PNG. I drop it into Nurture and Sketch, Landscape, Sketch. Okay, save it. Yeah, that's fine. So now we jump back into OpenAI, ChatGPT, and I upload that image. So we go to the sketch and then do the same as before using this sketch. As compositional reference. Yeah, I think that's it. And I will specify the windmill should be made up of corn and the blades on it made up of peas. I think that was quite a cool find. Yeah. All right, then let's go to Magnific, and in Magnific I am going to replace my structure reference, drop in that new image, the sketch that I created, and I am going to probably copy that text that I said here, that the windmill, how the windmill should look like, and drop that in here. peas. Yeah, it's a quite long prompt now, but it should work. And I'm still not using a style reference, by the way. I'm just relying on whatever is in the prompt. I'm going to generate that. And then let's try the same thing in Midjourney. Actually, in Midjourney, it doesn't really make sense to do this unless we go into the editor. Yes, actually, structure reference in Midjourney, I almost forgot that if we are using the editor, then we can use the retexture option, which is more like a structure reference. So if I go into edit uploaded image, again, we are using our sketch, okay? And then we go to retexture, and we also put the prompt in here. I think it has all of the text in, yeah. And then submit retexture. So this is again something that is easy to miss because most people would just go into Midjourney create option. But if you're using the editor, there you can upload your own sketches or ideas, and then it would generate things based on that. Now it looks quite horrible, to be honest. Yeah, I think this is probably the best out of all the 4 that I've seen here. But strangely, they are just very, I don't know, very aesthetically bad. However, it did a very good job at following my sketch. So those wonky lines that I have on the tractor is actually like perfectly aligned to my sketch. So if I spent a little bit more time refining my sketch, I believe we would get a better result. And by the way, this line here as well, even that sketch or like the motion lines that I added in my sketch is forced into this, so it also appears. So let me just do one more round of this, and potentially we could improve this by adjusting the prompt a little bit and obviously refining our sketch. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. Now let's see Magnific. So we have, I've done 2 of them. We have 1. I like the hills, the way they look. They are really entirely made up of specific food like corn. This looks like a leek, and then we have the peas. But the windmill itself is just a normal windmill, and again here it's not made up of food. Not bad. It sticks again exactly to my sketch, so it does an amazing job at following the exact outlines that I drew. But in terms of aesthetics, I'm not that happy about it, and that's mainly because we haven't used style reference yet. So I feel like it's going to improve a lot once we use the style reference. So if I just go back to OpenAI, it actually did a really good job, a solid job on the windmill. I really like that windmill. That looks really good. And I feel like we could ask ChatGPT to also turn the tractor into something that's made up of small pieces, like, I don't know, red, I guess tomato, pieces of tomato, or maybe even cranberries, small cranberries could be, or what else could be the red detail. Meat would look a little bit strange. I wouldn't want it to be made up of meat, although maybe salmon could look quite nice, but like sliced salmon. What else could it be that's red? Yeah, slices of tomato I think works. Yeah, let's just ask, change the tractor, the red parts, red details, on the tractor to be made of let's make it of tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes, why not? Cherry tomatoes. Actually, I'm just going to say tomatoes is probably easier. And replace, actually the meat I quite like. It's good to have some meat in there. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe replace the pepper on the left with something. What other food would look good that's not so dominant, and especially next to the tractor, I think it would make sense to have something different. Maybe an apple. Change the pepper on the left to an apple, to a actually apple. If it's green, it blends into the background. If it's red, it's too close to the tractor's color. So maybe we need something else. What else could it be? Maybe carrots on the left to a couple of carrots. And it could be like carrots to a farmhouse made up of carrots. Yeah, let's do that, just to have some variety. Carrots and maybe asparagus. I'm not asking much from the AI. Not giving it a hard time at all. Cool. All right, so these are rubbish. Definitely we can't really use these. ChatGPT is still winning the game. I love this windmill. That's perfect. That's exactly what I had in mind when I thought about this concept. Now we just have to get the tractor right. And I think another building, a farmhouse, would make more sense on the left side. And by the way, now we are only waiting for that. So while we are waiting for this, I'm going to jump back into Photoshop and go back to this version. And I am going to just test it out how it's going to do this here. So if I say I make a selection around here, like that, and then I'll say the same thing that I said here earlier. So a farmhouse made up of carrots and asparagus. Let's do that. Okay, and by the way, in Photoshop as well, you have the reference, so you can upload an object you want to reference, which could work, and it could be inserted or replacing an existing object. So yeah, you have more options there as well, but for now I'm just going to say that's the place where I want that to go, without giving any like guidance, additional guidance. So Ricardo is asking a question. I'm just going to show my iPad quickly. You were asking a question about the second idea with the characters. Displayed between a broccoli and a carrot shouldn't be between a company's farmer and the produce. Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious thing to do, to have a farmer who's looking after the food. Of course, I haven't even thought of that composition, but of course we could do that, but that would be a very traditional and very like obvious choice. So what I'm trying to do here, and what the brief is asking me to do, is to go a bit beyond that, like try to be creative and witty and something different, something that will catch people's attention. If I just have a person holding the produce and smiling, that's nice. I mean, we could use that composition if we come up with something clever. So, I mean, maybe what you thought about is that instead of him holding the food in a basket, he could have it in a cradle, and that's already quite good. I quite like that. So we could already make a version on that. So I'm not sure, Ricardo, if that's what you meant. I'm just going to draw that here quickly. So we have a person, and let's say with a mustache, why not, smiling, can have like a farmer's hat, and then holding proudly, or maybe not even holding, just simply actually holding like a baby food could be also quite fun. But I think even just as a cradle, it makes it even more obvious that it is a it's supposed to be the baby. So we have the cradle, and then instead of a baby, we have food in there. That I quite like that. I don't know why I haven't thought about that, but that's quite nice. And again, the environment around it could be different, but yeah, I like this idea. Cool. All right. So we recorded that for our reference. So we can come back to that later, but thanks for the input. That's really fun. All right. So let's see what Photoshop created. Well, yeah, that looks like a carrot henge, Stonehenge, but made of carrots. Yeah, that's rubbish. I'm just going to delete that. Thanks, but no thanks. Let's move back to OpenAI. Okay, OpenAI is not, again, didn't disappoint, apart from the fact that tractor stayed the same. So the tractor made up of tomatoes, actually a little bit looking like tomatoes now. Yeah, these details here look like sliced, like the skin of the tomato. Yeah, you could argue that it's made up of tomatoes now, and it's not bad, not bad. The windmill got a little bit strange. I prefer the way it looked before. So I'm going to go with the previous one. And also notice how we are starting to lose some details, like here everything is turning into broccoli and corn. That's something that I would also want to avoid. So I still like this version probably the most if I open this one up, but I also like what it was creating on that building. So we will open that one up as well. And the tractor. So if I just select this part here and copy this onto here, Command Shift V should place it in exactly in the same position. And then I'm just going to do a quick levels adjustment just to get it closer to the other detail, get the exposure right, and then I'm going to use a mask on it. And with a soft edge brush, I'm going to blend the two sides together just quickly. I never spend too much time masking until I'm sure about something. So that's the case here as well. I don't want to waste time refining my selection until I'm happy. I actually like the wheels to made up of completely of broccoli. I think that looks better. Yeah, that looks better. And then here I can have a bit smaller brush, paint over it like that. Okay, so far so good. This is one concept that I feel like is getting very close to what I had in mind. And the only issue is that I don't have any people in the image. And also, by the way, these things here at the bottom don't align, so I'm just going to fix that as well quickly. That should align with the foreground. And maybe here as well, we want the wheel to be completely used from the original source. And then here, I want to make sure that is nicely set up there. Okay, so that looks better. All right, and maybe this one here as well need to be adjusted so it's not like blurry. Yeah, looking great now. So once again, oh, and the corn here in the background still not perfect. I did say I don't want to spend too much time masking, but I still also don't want to make it look all over the place and have these alignment problems there, and the rest is fine. Okay, so this I like, and I'm going to save it as landscape v2. Okay, and then I think what we can do now is to bring this into Magnific, and we can upscale it. So obviously Magnific is best known for its upscaling. That was its original feature, but since then it changed a lot and it has a lot of other options, but I still trust it most for that. So if I go into Magnific Upscaler, I just put the input image in, which we created here, and then I want to upscale it to how much? Let's maybe do 4 times. Why not? And then I'm not even going to write any prompt. I will allow some creativity. Actually, let's just drop our prompt in. Why not? Yeah, I think it's still fine, and I'm going to do, yeah, just creativity is a little bit higher. We allow a bit more creativity, and then we can do upscale. Okay, so that's, we will see the result of that. And I think at the same time, because now we are getting closer to the result on this, we can start thinking about how we want to do the text. So if I use the type tool and type in nurture, the obvious choice would be to have a big title here, and the windmill could be in front of the text. So that's one option that we can do. It will look a bit like a magazine cover. The other option is that we move the text in the middle, maybe here, and that way we could have it slightly behind the tractor but in front of the building and the windmill. I think that's a little bit better composition, and of course we will need the tagline as well, so we will have to think about that at the bottom. Now, ChatGPT is good at adding text. It's actually very good at adding text, so but I wouldn't want to rely on that. Now, the tagline could be at the bottom, most likely, that we have enough space there, but there's a lot of negative space here on the top as well, so we can decide where we want to put it, and it most likely will be lowercase or sentence case. So I would just roughly start adding that, and I can also decide on which tagline we want to use. Good food grows here is quite good. Naturally delicious, organic goodness in every bite. Rooted in nature, delivered with care is a little bit too long. I think good food grows here is nice. It's really like the farm I think plays off with the farm. This tagline works well. And for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. However, we could also add the tagline like this. I think that's a quite nice visual hierarchy of combining them both in the middle, the title and the text below it. I think, yeah, something like that. Obviously, font choices we can think about later, but for now, I will keep it like that. And then let's jump back to Magnific. It's still upscaling it. Obviously, a 4 times upscale means that we will have a very high resolution result. We will have something that can be printed in a much larger format. That's one amazing thing about Magnific, that it can obviously upscale an image, but it's not in its, like, not real upscaling. It's obviously regenerating every detail, and it can make mistakes, but usually those mistakes can be easily fixed in Photoshop. So we will see what we do with it. And you could argue that at the moment we haven't done much manually in Photoshop. Most of the things that we are doing is combining different things from generative AI tools. And we can be concerned about the ethical implications of this work, and obviously the copyright issues. If the client decides to go down this route, what would happen then, and whether it's okay to use AI, and that's a tricky topic to talk about. But I'm going to explain a bit more in detail once we get closer to the end what I think in this case we could do. Now, looking at this, it really added a lot of detail, and it did a really good job. However, I can see strange things happening, like the meat is now turned into some kind of grapefruit. And the avocado looks great. The corn windmill looks amazing, beautiful. The carrot asparagus house looks perfect. And obviously tomato in the foreground looks great, although this looks more like an apple. So what I'm going to do is to run this again, and I'm going to be just a little bit more specific. So I am going to write meat on the right side, sliced meat on the right side below the asparagus. So only those details that are not working I'm going to change. And then the tractor I actually quite like. It looks like it's made up of an apple. We could refine that in Photoshop. Maybe we could specify tomatoes in the foreground so it doesn't turn it into an apple like that one. And then what else did it mess up? I think the rest is looking quite good. There's even like walnuts added in there, which is quite nice. So it looks like it could be walnut. And yeah, I mean, like, these also don't really look like any real vegetable anymore. The Brussels sprouts, I think they're supposed to be Brussels sprouts. Maybe I write that Brussels sprouts. I'm just going to check if I'm correct. Brussels sprout. Yeah, I think they were supposed to be Brussels sprouts, yes. So Brussels sprouts on the right side, and tractor made up of apple, red parts of tractor made up of apple. Yeah. So let's see if we just specified that, and maybe I will reduce the size now to 2 times just to get a faster result. Let's do an upscale again. But yeah, generally, if I just download this image or result that we have here, we will see how it's going to look in Photoshop. So let's just open that up. And that's not the one. Yeah, I have to say 100% quality. It's a 40 megabyte image. And by the way, you can see how the contrast has been increased a lot compared to the original. So it doesn't have that soft look anymore. It has a very vibrant, bright look, which we can obviously tone down if we want to, but I feel like it could work better because it would really stand out in a poster format. And just look at the amount of detail we have here. Magnific is really amazing at doing this type of thing. Yeah, the avocado is beautiful. These broccoli veals look great as well. So yeah, I feel like it's on the right track for sure. I just have to get the those details improved, and you see it got a much faster result the second time. Unfortunately, it hasn't fixed much of the things that I asked. So if I zoom closer, it's pretty much the same thing. Maybe it does look a bit more like meat there on the right side, but still not really looking like meat. So I feel like that might need to be something that we fix in Photoshop, and all the rest of the things, yeah, it didn't really improve. My prompt didn't really help. So what we can try is to make a selection of this. I'm just going to use the object selection tool and try to have a selection made of that meat. Let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. And then we could just say sliced meat, sliced chunk of meat. I'm not going to specify what meat it is. Let's see what Photoshop is going to create. And we could also recreate any other details that we don't like. That's weird. What is that? This, I mean, that looks delicious. And that, it looks like bacon maybe. Doesn't really follow the shape that we had there, but it's looking quite good. In a way, it almost looks like a haystack, but made of meat, which is quite fun, like these. Maybe that's what we could do, is to say, again, I might be asking too much of Photoshop, but maybe make, what else could be a haystack? Or if I just say haystack made up of, let's do carrots. Actually, we already have carrots of meat. It might be silly. Again, not sure if it will understand what I meant. But I mean, some of these results that we got could already work. We might just need to refine it a little bit. That's not bad. That's actually really good. I like how there's slices of meat. It's like beef, and then the avocado is sitting on top of it. So that was before, and this is after. I like this. This is good. It looks a bit like a structure, could be a structure in the form. Yeah, I mean, it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Now, the tomato, even the one on the left doesn't really look like a tomato, right? It looks more like a pumpkin. So maybe that's what we could turn this into. It might be a little bit too big of an area for Photoshop to do this well, because don't forget we are in a very high resolution format now, but I'm going to try to turn that into a pumpkin, and the other one I will turn into a tomato. So let's do a pumpkin, and we can make it yellow, I guess, or orange pumpkin, because pumpkins can be red as well, but I'm going to use orange instead, just to have a bit more variety in colors. And by the way, after we put the text on this one, we will move straight on to the other ideas that we have. I still want to at least do one of these other ones, but maybe more if we have time for them, experiment with more. So our pumpkin turned out to be like this, not bad. So before and after, as an overall composition, the tomato looked better, but let's give it another try. I would just say, yeah, the same prompt. Let's just try it again. Yes, this looks nice. Yeah, I like this one. This works. And now we just have to have this one selected. By the way, I'm using the object selection tool with the settings that you can see here on the top. It can easily like just highlight things. Once it's analyzed the image, you can easily highlight anything, and then we can just generate around that. If you want to increase your selection, sometimes that helps to get a better result, but in this case I'm just going to say tomato, or we could even make it into an apple, but let's just do a tomato, and we'll get the result there. Okay, happy with that one or that one. Either of them could work. Maybe this one is a little bit nicer, although it feels a bit floating around. It's not as nicely integrated as the other examples. So maybe let's just do one more generate option on it. And by the way, the Brussels sprouts we have to still fix. At least one of them I'm going to fix, the bigger one. I still like that one the best. I think I'm gonna select this one and say Brussels sprout. Now, one thing I don't like in Photoshop is that you have to wait for each generated image, so you can't continue working while it's generating something. I really feel that needs to be a background task, allow us to be able to work while it's generating things. Not that it takes long to generate them, but it's still just, yeah, it prevents us to continue working. Hopefully they can consider that in the future. That would really make a difference. Let's see. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, it's nicely integrated into the environment, works better. And then maybe we can replace this one with an apple or a tomato. No, sorry, a potato. Potato would work quite nicely there, just to have a bit of variety of details. Yeah, that looks good. Well, it's hard to choose. Maybe that one. That looks a bit nicer. And then lastly, this one I want to probably turn into, let's think of what else could be used in there. Anyone else? Anyone has an idea what that should be that we haven't featured yet? If I zoom out, let's think of what could be used there that hasn't been featured yet as food product. Something circular, maybe an egg might be good, actually. Yeah, an egg. But in that case, I will actually make a bigger selection here, like that. Yeah, cucumber would be good too. Maybe an egg. I would try. So I give a little bit more freedom for Photoshop now. So I'm not restricting the outline, and it allows a little bit more space to blend it in as well. Yeah, I think that is quite nice. Again, gives a little bit more variety. And I mean, look at this. So this is important. If you were to put together images that you find online, like stock photos, what you would really struggle with is to get reflections right. So here, what Photoshop managed to create is the reflection of the corn on the egg. So we have, first of all, a really nice texture that really looks like the right type of texture. The lighting comes from the same angle as the rest of the food. But what's most impressive is the reflection of the corn on the egg. Now, not all of the generations were perfect, but they all sort of understand the lighting that would need to be added there. But in this one in particular, it did an amazing job. So if I again see before and after, obviously the original generated image, which we upscaled in Magnific, also had a nice reflection on it. So that made it look quite realistic. But Photoshop has done an amazing job capturing that. And it's looking great now. So we have a variety of food, all kinds of different products. The only thing I'm still not 100% sure about is how the tractor looks like. So you could say it's apple, but not definitely, it's not obviously an apple. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to use the quick selection tool. Actually, we need to select the background detail. Quick selection tool, and select the hood of this, and then we want to say what happens if I just say apple? Let's see what happens then. Yeah, I mean, it's trying its best to fit it in there. Maybe I say tractor's hood. Is it called hood? The front part, made of an apple. Made of apple. Is it the hood of the tractor? I'm not 100% sure what's the term for that. The front part of the tractor. Okay, I'm asking a bit too much of Photoshop now, I can see. It's struggling with that. So yeah, I'm going to ignore that detail, and I will stick to what it has there because I feel like it's good enough. Although it's not like clearly an apple, but it could be a lot of different things. I will be okay with that for now. So I will save this for sure. I wanted to save it as version 3, just so we will see the evolution of what we've done so far. And then so we can see our first landscape version, then we can see our second, and then we can see our third one. So we improved quite a lot in terms of details and the components that we used. I'm just going to bring in the text that we prepared, and and we just resize it, because remember the previous version was much lower in resolution. Now we can make it much bigger, and then what we can do is we will place the text somewhere around there. And I actually won't spend too much time on the typography because I feel like it would be interesting to see what we can do with the other compositions instead. But for this organic text, I will use probably something like Almac. Is quite a nice font. It's bold enough for it to stand out. We can maybe set it a bit tighter like that, and then if we want it to be a bit more friendly looking, we could look for something a bit more curved, or this rough version has a bit of texture that could look quite nice as well. For now I'm going to keep maybe that version but duplicate it and create another version as well. And let's just see quickly. Like, I don't want to really spend too much time on choosing the font. But there's another font that I quite like that could work well, like this one, DAX Compact Pro. Has these nice curves on the top, a bit more friendly looking, also quite condensed, so taller letters work well. I would probably go with this. And then just a quick thing that we can do here is to have the top of the tractor selected like that, and then have our text and just mask it out on it like that. So it feels like it's hidden behind it. It didn't really do a good selection, the mask, so I'm just going to do this manually with my pen tool. I create a path and go around like that, and then and I just want to, oh, why is it doing that? Yeah, now it works. And I will just fill it in with oh, okay, I messed up the text there. Yes, it's because I'm on the text layer. It Command Enter wants to make a selection. That was the problem. I did the wrong selection. What happened there? Oh yeah, no. I want that to be filled in with white. Yes. Okay. Got there in the end. I was just making mistakes there, but I will just make sure that this doesn't have any gaps on it, like that. Okay. And by the way, this side is still not correct here, so I'm just going to do that quickly. Since we've done it on the left side, I will just create a nice sharp edge on this side as well, and turn this into a selection. Make selection and fill it in with white. Okay, cool. Good food grows here. I think that's fine the way it is written. And all in white I think works well as well. All right, so roughly an hour and a half, and we got to a fully realized concept. Now, I wouldn't call this a final result, but this is a concept that can be already presented to the client. Of course, I would always be transparent that this is heavily utilizing generative AI. We did a lot of the details simply combining generative details, so that can be addressed at a later stage. If this is the direction the client wants to go with, then we can either recreate this completely from scratch using food photography, like actual miniature rebuilt the same way, or we could explore doing a 3D render and additional options. Now, I know for a fact that many clients now don't care if it's generated, the image. There are, like I said, could be implications that you have to consider when you do this, but it's the most important thing as a designer is that you have to be clear that you are utilizing AI for these concepts, and you should never consider these the final product. So this is a direction, an idea that we put together quickly as a concept, and I honestly feel like you shouldn't be restricting yourself, avoiding using AI for these type of things, because as long as you have your creative concept that you came up with and you take it step by step through this process that you've seen here, you still put a lot of creative work into the composition, lots of choices and steps that you go through. It's not just a simple generated image. However, we can argue that this is still subpar and a weaker end product than something that was made by a photographer, creating this, putting it together. And of course it's true, like it's nothing close to the real thing. But it is the closest thing at the moment, it's especially in terms of the speed that we put this together. So creating this in 3D and rendering it out would be a lot of work. Doing a food miniature, taking good shots of it and then refining, retouching it in Photoshop would take also a lot of time. So if speed is important, and at least in the concept stage where you want to generate lots of ideas and allow the client to choose from the direction that they like the most, for that particular thing, I feel like AI is brilliant because it really gives us a very detailed, highly detailed result, so the client can really look at every little detail and consider whether this is what they want to see or not. And then, but at the same time, it didn't take us that long to create. So I let everyone decide what you think about AI in general, but I am not going to spend more time on this composition. I feel like this is fine. Now we can look at our other idea. So if I jump back to the second composition with the parents, the characters, broccoli and the carrot, and their baby, the broccoli carrot, or carrotoli, maybe it could be called. So let's try to create that. Now, this is a tricky thing to get right, but I feel like OpenAI will do a good job again. So create another poster. Create another poster where we have two vegetables standing. Actually, let's just use our sketch. So if I go back, I think we could help. I can't remember if OpenAI did a good job with our sketch or not. Did it do a good job when we gave the sketch? I think it helped to get things right, yes. So I think we should use our sketch for sure. If I just bring up the sketch and then crop onto this detail here, and I'm just going to remove the text, or maybe we could even have the text there, why not? And I'm just going to write here at the bottom which prompt works better here. Rooted in nature, delivered with care. Yeah, maybe that one. Why not? Or we can put that in the prompt. Yeah, so let's just save this out. JPEG export, sketch 2, and then we drop it into here. Upload, sketch 2. So create another poster where we have two vegetables standing side by side. Broccoli on the left, a carrot on the right. They are like parents. Make the vegetables having human-like features, eyes, mouth, arms. Yeah. They are holding their baby, which looks like a combination of a broccoli and a carrot, like a hybrid vegetable, and make it look very cute, like a baby. The background is white, and there is a tagline at the bottom: rooted in nature, delivered with care. Just put this in, and then what else? For now, I think that's enough. Use this sketch as a reference. I put that at the end. Okay, let's see. Again, I might ask a lot, but I have a feeling ChatGPT is going to do a really good job with this. And you see, again, we have an idea for a specific brief that we already imagined, sketched out, and then we describe it. These are all important things. But the amazing thing about AI is really that as a lot of people who might not be able to draw a very detailed sketch, but a sketch that I created, I think most people would be able to do. I mean, it's not artistic at all. It's a very rough sketch. And describing someone's idea, again, some people might be better at explaining their thoughts than others. But again, I don't think I am great at explaining what I want. And yeah, like just having the ability to turn an idea into something that is looking good and usable is just amazing. I honestly feel like this is not putting graphic designers in danger, but just really opens up so much options for people who wouldn't be able to do these things in complex applications like Photoshop. Okay, so this is actually quite fun. It did a really good job. Even the text itself is rendered really well. I'm not sure about the legs on the broccoli, but it's not bad. I thought of the legs maybe a bit like smaller, similar to the carrot. But I love the baby. I think it looks really good. So let's just use this. Again, we probably won't spend too much time with this because this already looks quite nice. Honestly, I didn't want to use the text that was generated by ChatGPT. I just wanted to show you that it does quite a good job at adding it. I am just going to remove it with generative fill because the background is not completely white. So I'm using generative fill to replace it or remove it. Hopefully it's not going to try to rewrite the text for us. Because when you don't write anything in the generative field, normally takes it as if you want to remove it, and it did a good job. Okay, then we can merge this together, and then what we can do is to resize this a little bit. I feel like in terms of composition, I would want to use something like that, or maybe we can use the generative expand. So using the original aspect ratio, I will increase the size a bit, generative expand. Again, no prompt added. And while I'm working on this, Robin is asking, what would I do to finalize the composition that we created, the previous one, if the client wants this? So like I mentioned this before, it depends on the client. So being transparent about AI was used heavily for this composition. Depending on their preferences, it could be a very quick refinement, maybe just retouching a couple of details. Or if they said, no, we don't want to do anything with AI, then in that case, it would have to be recreated in one way or another, either in 3D or actual photography or creative retouching of using some images and then putting them together into a composition. Each of these things will be time consuming, would take a lot longer than this, but knowing the fact that the client already approved the composition is a big step in the creative process. So that's like a stage that you achieved, and we did that within an hour and a half. So that's already like a big win once we get to that. So yeah, let's just continue with this one. I think we have the right setup now, and I'm just going to borrow the same text that we used here. Drop that in. We don't need any masking on this. We will set it to green, most likely, the word nurture. Maybe borrow one of these nice bright greens, and then we can use the rest of the text at the bottom. That can probably be black or even orange or yellow. So let's see how it looks with this color. Yeah, I think that will look nice. And then instead of this quote, I wanted to use the rooted in nature, delivered with care. Obviously, the delivered with care in this case has two meanings. Delivered like giving birth. And I'm going to do this in 2 lines. And then yeah, rooted in nature, delivered with care. I think in black it looks better, and I might change the text as well, but for now I would just make it smaller a bit, and maybe a single line works better. Yeah, something like that. And obviously this should be a bit further down, so I'm going to move it down, and then I'm just going to fill in the top with that color. Yeah, and the nurture can come down a little bit. Maybe if we do the nurture in orange, looks a bit better, I think. And it could be maybe slightly behind that character. So if you just do a selection there and then pop that on there as a mask, just a subtle indication, and then obviously this one as well should be selected, and then just add that to the mask by filling it with black. Yeah, so very subtle. Maybe it needs to go a little bit further down, because this is something I would refer to as a tangent. So they are too close to each other. So what I would do is unlock the mask, or like detach the mask, and just move the text down a bit, just to be a little bit more overlap between the two, something like that. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. So I lock the mask back, and then I would want to move this detail down a bit. I feel like it would look cuter if the character had the legs smaller. So I will just duplicate that detail, move it down, and just stretch it a bit so it fits the design. Maybe we can use liquify actually for this, or just use free transform and warp it a bit. Yeah, something like that. And then I'm going to use the removal tool or remove tool and remove any detail around it that doesn't look good. And let's see how that looks. There is a question whether when you come up with a very original concept like this, would this be more considered my idea than something that was generated by just purely generated by AI? It's a very difficult thing to say. Like there is no clear distinction between now what is my work in here and what the AI did. Yeah, it's just really hard to tell. So yeah, there's really not even point in trying to decipher what would be considered more our work and more the AI's. It's really tricky. But yeah, I mean, I feel like both of these ideas could work. And then with this one, we could do a lot of additional things. So what I will do first is save this into our folder, and I will call it, this one will be called parents. Yeah. And then what I would do first is to put this into Magnific and upscale it. So we take off the prompt, put the input image in there, parents, and then what we could do is to try steer the prompt, even though upscaling is not really the tool that you should use for adjusting the style. But what we could do, maybe actually what I would do first, I will just remove the text for now and just export it without the text, just simply the image the way it is. Let's do this one and export the way it is, parents, no text. Yeah. So if I bring this into style transfer, and then the input image is going to be this one, and then the reference image we could have a photorealistic detail, or we could just use a prompt and say photorealistic mascots, vegetable mascots. Yeah, and let's try it like this. We need a reference image. We must have a reference image. In that case, let's just try the retexture in Midjourney, or in Magnific. If I go into Mystic, we could use the structure reference, that image as our structure reference, and style reference we could use something quickly that we generate in Midjourney. So if I just use the same prompt as here, 2 vegetables standing, yeah, let's just do that. The background is white. Yeah, we don't need this one, and we won't use a sketch in this case, just simply that, and then we do send that. So let's see what happens. Maybe one thing I forgot again to specify, but yeah, there you go. These are more photorealistic, even though I didn't specify it, but they are photorealistic. So we could, I guess, use this one as our style reference because they look more photorealistic. So if I go back to Magnific and choose the style reference for the image that I just downloaded, yeah, that one, and then I want it to be using that prompt, which was added here as well. So let's put that in Magnific, and then that's it. So the structure reference, style reference is in place, and then let's do 2 or maybe 4. Let's just generate 4 of them quickly. And let's see what we get. Sorry. Let's see what we get. We could also try the retexture in Midjourney. So if I go into Edit and Retexture, and no, actually we go to Edit. Oh, I want to do a new one. Edit new image, upload, and then we wanted to edit this one from Nurture, Parents No Text, and we want to retexture it and say make this photorealistic vegetable mascots. Yeah, let's see what happens. So Magnific already generated one version. Very nice result. It really sticks exactly to the structure of the original characters, but turns them into really realistic details. I love the shoes on the broccoli on this one, and the gloves as well. The faces are really cute as well, with like drawn mouth and eyebrows. These are lovely, really fun. Probably this is my favorite out of all of them, but there's some nice details in all of them. Yeah, the baby looks cute in most of them. But yeah, I think this is my favorite one. So if I just download this one, we can have a look at it. And actually, while we do that, we can, let's see, not that one. So we wanted this one, download, and then we wanted this to be, yeah, there's nothing really I would need to retouch on this. Apart from maybe the eyes, I feel like they could be a bit more nicer. So I'm just going to try to see cute eyes. Let's see what happens then. It might be horrible. Might make it look cross-eyed or something like that, or make it look like a realistic human eye. It could be extremely bad, but that is actually quite nice. Okay, that looks like stickers on it, but yeah, I quite like these eyes a little bit better, more like a bit manga reflections on them. The one on the broccoli I actually don't mind. It was more like the carrot that I wanted to make a bit cuter. Yes, so I feel like that is already looking really good. Really fun composition, and yeah, I love the shoes on the broccoli. I think what we can do now is to export this back out. Maybe, yeah, I mean, adjusting colors and stuff like that usually can wait till the end. I wouldn't worry about it too much at this stage. So I would just call it Parents Realistic. And then the reason I'm still going back to Magnific is because I want to upscale it. By the way, Magnific has a plugin for Photoshop, so you can also do upscaling directly within Photoshop. But I still prefer to do it here in the browser. It has a little bit more option. So I will do Magnific Upscale, Realistic, and I'm doing 2 times upscale. I think will be enough for the demonstration that we are doing here. And I'm just going to do photorealistic vegetable mascots. I think that's fine. That's all we need to specify. I increased the creativity still to 2. I think that's still could be used in this case. So I'm going to run it like that. All right. And by the way, Midjourney came up with these. Yeah, not good compared to Magnific. Magnific did a better job. Not bad though. I mean, there is potential in this, but again, like the baby is completely wrong. It's turned into more like, I don't know, like some type of other carrot. Again, the colors are messed up. In terms of rendering and making it look realistic, this probably is the best one, but we lost the original colors. Yeah, so it's not that good. Retexture is good in terms of keeping the original shapes, but loses a lot of information in the process. While here in Magnific, I didn't have to specify what these mascots are, and it still did a really good job. And by the way, you can see once you upscale it, it adds an astonishing amount of detail, and things like reflections are looking much better. The shoes I still love. There's even little dust on the floor to make it look like real thing. I love that. The shadows are extremely realistic. The baby is really cute with the broccoli hair. The carrots reflections as well, and texture looks great. Yeah, I love this. So let's just download this version, and then we put our text on it, and we can call it already one of the versions ready. So I'll close this one. I don't have to save this. This version had the text already prepared, so I can just bring those back and drop it in here. We have to make this bigger. The masking I have to do anyway, a new one, because the original one won't work, but I will try to set it up in a similar format. I think something like that will work. So if I make a selection, subject select in this case, and I want to use the cloud, it does a better job at selections. This is the new cloud selection, by the way, is extremely good. Finds tiny little details really well. So it did an amazing job. For this, you have to still use Photoshop beta. But yeah, you can see how good that selection is around the edges. Look at that. It's really nicely done it. So yeah, we have our second composition ready. Now you could argue that we might want to improve the typography, maybe some more detail in this composition, but I like the simplicity of this. So it really has that nurture aspect nailed, and the humor is in there. So yeah, I really like this one. I'm gonna drop it in there and save it as parents version 2. Okay, and then let's look at our iPad. So we still have a bit of time left, and let's think about the next composition with the text. I think we should do that one, although I like the farmer with the cradle as well. I'm gonna probably do this one. It's a fairly simple one, and again, I feel like even if I just do a screenshot here quickly and bring that into Photoshop. Actually, I have it here already, sorry. I'm just gonna go back to the sketch. Okay, crop into this, and then I'll just remove that part there at the bottom. I'll export this out and we'll use it text, yeah, or let's call it type composition. And then I think the best place to do this would be, again, open ChatGPT, upload from computer, type, and then let's describe this. So typography, let's create another poster, this time using the sketch as reference. Create a text, create large letters made entirely of food products. I will put some ideas in there, so corn, peas, cucumber, meat, we can have egg, tomato, potato, carrot, Brussels sprout, what else? Broccoli. What else did we have in the original one? Asparagus. That's quite good because it's long. I think that's enough, etc. And also, by the way, this is important that in ChatGPT, you can be a bit more natural in how you describe things. So your prompts can be a little bit more natural, and it's going to understand it really well. Okay, and I think that's it. The background should be a vibrant, warm color. Make it look photorealistic, like a top-down food photography shot. Yeah, I think that's enough. Yeah, and it should understand what letters we need based on what I have in the image in my sketch, but it may help in the prompt to specify what we wanted to add there. But for now, I think that should be enough for ChatGPT to understand what we want. And let's see what we will get. I'm gonna give thumbs up on this one and thumbs up on yeah, that one was really good. Okay, so we just wait for this, and then we will see what we will need to do to refine it. And by the way, I can show an example of a typography based composition that I created. There's a couple of them. Like I created one when I wanted to write the yes, obviously, yes, I'm a designer, made of bubbles. This was a quite nice little experiment. But this one probably was a more interesting one when I wanted to create a composition. And this was at the very beginning when I think Midjourney 3, what I used for this. I created these isometric letters to create the word nature, and the concept was to have the seasons represented. So from winter on the left, we'd move to spring, then summer, and then autumn. And I still like this, but now looking at it, obviously there's a lot of like strange details if we zoom close into it. And I'm sure if I recreated this now, it would be just a lot of more like better details, and it would look so much better already. This is not a brief, but I guess it could be turned into a brief. It is a fun project. Yeah, I agree. This could be a fun project, and maybe it could be like, it doesn't have to be the seasons and the word nature. It could be something else, but like have a nice theme like that. Okay, so let's see what we got. Hard to read. Nurture. It's actually messed up the order of the letters as well. Yes, not bad. I mean, we could easily move the letters around. The N is fairly clear. The T is very clear. The E is very clear. The U is bad at the bottom. That's it's recreated the previous composition inside this composition, which is weird. I'm not sure why it did that. Even though I said let's create another poster, maybe if I specify this better, you don't use the characters from the previous poster. Make sure there are clearly, easily legible letters, and then N-U-R-T-U-R-E. And I think the background should be not orange, but probably yellow. Make the background yellow. I think that would work better. Or blue. Make the background blue. Yeah. Let's see. And by the way, if I was doing this the traditional way of utilizing images, I could look for photos on sites like FreePic. If I go to food and drinks, let's just say photos, and I can search specifically for vegetables, and there will be lots of things here. I can make sure that if I want to use original photography, I can say I want to exclude AI generated images, and this is something I really like about FreePic, that they made that really easy to choose. And on other platforms, even on Adobe Stock, I see that even if I say exclude AI generated assets, it would still show some, sometimes quite a lot it still shows. But yeah, like images like this, I think this is actually AI generated as well. So there you go. Does it say AI generated? No. Yeah, so that tomato is clearly not a real tomato. So this is also AI generated. So yeah, even on FreePic, it seems like they are really struggling to identify what is non-AI image anymore. But yeah, like an image like this is great. Here we could easily combine and move these elements around. So if I download this, it offered to remove the background for us. Let's see if we remove the background, how good it's going to be. Oh, by the way, on ChatGPT, you can generate things without background, and it does a PNG, a transparent PNG for you. So when you want to make sure the background is editable, you can just simply specify that you want to make it transparent. Okay, so this still forces those characters in there. So in these cases, it might be easiest to just start a new chat. So if I say new chat, and I'm just going to make, just copy this text. That's also one thing that you just have to get used to on ChatGPT if you want to avoid that issue. Let's create a poster using the sketch as reference. Create large letters, meaning food. I'll put it here, N-U-R-T-U-R-E. The background should be a vibrant actually let's do transparent background, just so I can demonstrate it to you. Transparent background. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, let's run it. Hey Ismail, that's great. I'm glad you are still learning from me and joining me on your journey. That's amazing. I'm glad you still follow me. Amazing. And you became a visual effects designer. Amazing. Working on films. That's so great to hear. If you have a portfolio, you can drop it in the chat. I would love to check it out. If you have like a reel or something like that I can see, I would be happy to have a look at it. But yeah, so I removed the background on FreePic for this image, and we can check how it looks, and we can just test it out with a solid color behind it. Yeah, it did a really good job. So FreePic background removal is impressive. I did a very good mask, even around more complex details. And it's not perfect, but like very close. Again, like 99% correct. And then of course, if I use something like this, what I would do first is to separate this into layers. So I would select the caret, for instance, then press Command Shift J. That cuts it out from the original and puts it on a new layer. I would rename the layer just to make sure I can find it easily, and then I would turn it into a smart object. So convert to smart object, and that's basically what I would do here. And I'm just going to do maybe the chili, just so we have two shapes that we can work with. And then we turn that also, let's just call it chili, and then smart object, and maybe one more element like the peanut. Let's just do the peanut. Separate that peanut up. Peanut, smart object. And then what we could do is to use these on the composition that we created. Actually, we don't have like a ready composition for this. I'm just going to save one of these, like this one. We could save parents version 2, or the landscape version. Yeah, maybe this one I can save separately as type Photoshop PSD, and then I just delete the background, delete the text for now, and just drop these things in here. And then once you have things set up as smart objects, you can start thinking about how to turn them into letters, and it's actually a really fun process. So if you don't want to take away the fun from doing stuff like this and relying completely on AI, then you can still do fun things like using the puppet warp, and then we can just set up the chili with a nice curve. like that. And the peanut can have its puppet warp as well. I always specify the 2 endpoints, and then the middle point I can drag up. In this case, we can even have maybe additional point here and here, just to give the curve a little bit even more shape and get that curve right that we wanted. And we can put this down a bit. So yeah, like really nicely aligning it, helping to get the right shape. And then I guess we could use this one just for variety as one more. Put this on a separate layer. We can just drop it in here. And oh, how come it's because I thought it was masked out already. Maybe I was on the wrong version. Yeah, that's the one that was masked out. Yeah, so let's just do this quickly. Separate layer, and then smart object, pepper, copy, place, and we're done with one of the letters. So it doesn't take that long, and you can have a much more creative freedom, of course, moving things in front or behind. We can have again the chili in front of the carrot if we want, or behind. So yeah, you can have a lot more variety and a lot more freedom in how you set things up. I actually liked it the way it was behind it. So yeah, that is a really cool combination. So we have 3 of 4 different things here, and that created our R for the text. And then I would normally turn the whole thing into either a group or another smart object. In this case, I would turn it into another smart object and just call it R. And then NUR, it would be here. I can just make it smaller. Actually, one disadvantage of turning the whole thing into a smart object is that you end up having this big rectangle around it. So in this case, probably I will just use a group, and actually, yeah, having the group is fine. So that way we can easily adjust it and move it around. Yeah, there you go. So that's our R. But this is obviously would take a little bit longer. Although we have time, I wanted to just check how far we got with ChatGPT. And yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. And we could combine results from here with the things that we create. But if I download this, mainly what I just wanted to show is that it is really a PNG. So, oh, and it says not a PNG file. That's interesting. Okay, let me see if I open this image in a new tab. Okay, that must be something that went wrong here, because it does look like it's generating. Maybe if I refresh it. Okay, maybe now. Save. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I can just show it quickly. Now, if we put the solid color background, it is completely transparent background. There could be a little bit of pixelation on the shadows. I noticed that before, but that's because of the lower resolution. But that again is something that we've only thought about just a couple of weeks ago, that it would be cool to have transparent images generated in AI. Now it's a reality. It's something that we can see already working. So yeah, I feel like this composition would still be better if I did it manually and build up everything myself. It would lead to more interesting results, and I could be more in control of how I want to put things together. But if you want to test it Again, it's missing an R, by the way, here. It still didn't do a good job on that. But yeah, if you want to test out a composition like that, that could work, just to use AI for it in the beginning, and then you would refine it later. Maybe one thing we could try is to use Magnific, but I feel like we've seen Magnific already, and we did some amazing things with it, so I don't want to spend more time on that. I feel like we got to a good result having two compositions. So let's just open them up side by side. I will actually go into Bridge and open these up side by side just so we can see them better. And this third option, of course, is far from ready, but it's on the right track. Okay. Let me just open up Bridge quickly. So we can see it side by side, and we can see the progress that we made as well. Bridge is just taking long, but here it is. All right, so we have the nurture project. Where is it? Nurture, there it is. Okay, so if I look at the process on the first one, this was basically the process. So we started with the sketch, then we worked with ChatGPT and Magnific, and then we refined things in Photoshop, typography, and replacing a couple of elements. So that was a really nice process there. And then we had this other process where we started off with a image, again with ChatGPT, actually the original sketch, and then we ended up with this result on the right. So from a sketch, ChatGPT generated a brilliant result for us, and then we use Magnific style and structure transfer to turn this into a photorealistic result, and then use Photoshop just to add the text. So that was another workflow that we got to a final result with. And then if we just look at our original ideas, we started the third one, the text. I already showed the workflow for that, so that's just simply repeating the same steps again. And maybe we could just do a quick prompt on this one, since I like that idea and since one of you came up with that. So I can just do maybe this in Midjourney. I'm going to do happy farmer with straw hat and big mustache. If I can spell mustache. Is that how you spell it? No, like that, yeah. Mustache, holding a cradle. Inside the cradle is a baby made up entirely of food products. And I'm just gonna drop the same thing in here from OpenAI or ChatGPT, all of these things that we wrote down before. Yeah. Let's see. And I want this to be also portrait format, but I guess it remembers that. And then I will say photo of happy farmer. Yeah, let's see. Just gonna check quickly the chat. One of you, Mahadnir, is saying AI became an integral part of designers' workflows, so learning to modify them is demanding skill. Knowing design fundamentals is a must for great work. Yeah, I agree. Well, in a way, these videos that I'm doing now will be all examples of how AI can be used, and in combination with design tools and design principles. So I guess these you can consider these courses, but I am planning to do a course like really explaining all the AI tools and how to use them. So yeah, that's something in the works. And Ricardo is saying we have to be aware of potential lighting issues. Yes, that's right. Yeah, when you put together the composition like this, you have to make sure the lighting matches. Like here, it's already maybe a bit bad because the carrot should be like this according to the other details, and it actually does look quite nice having it like that. And probably we could just use the puppet warp again, just bend it a little bit around. I can do that quickly here. That's a very good point, Ricardo, by the way. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, so we have to be aware of lighting. We have to pay attention to the lighting when we just combine things like this. Yeah. So before and after. I'm aligning the shadow here to how the peanut is lit. And these are the two objects. They don't have like very detailed shadow under them. It gives a little bit more freedom on them, but the peanut and the carrot is now more aligned. So yeah, that was a very good point you made there. Going back to this is obviously very bad. I didn't want an actual baby to be there. How would I be able to say this better? Inside the cradle is a baby made up entirely of food products. So maybe try this again. Is in the cradle are food products arranged to form a human baby. Let's see if that helps to be, if it helps to work. Okay, no. Yeah, I guess if I did a sketch it might help, but yeah, it's just starting to do some very bad results. Maybe we can try the same text in let's try in Magnific's Mystic, and I'm going to remove the structure reference and style reference for now. I will use the model fluid, and I want to use traditional, yes. So let's generate 4, okay, just to test it out. And we can also test it in OpenAI or ChatGPT. Yeah. Let's do that. Again, we are working in the same conversation as before, which could affect the result. So it's always good to start a new conversation. I don't know if there's like a reset within ChatGPT to start something completely independent, but let's see our Magnific results. Okay. I mean, the character and the cradle looks quite good, but the food obviously is not forming a human child. This is probably the closest to it. Well, it's actually quite scary, especially the meat. It's becoming a bit morbid, and yeah, although it's a fun concept, I'm not sure if it will work unless the baby is really made up maybe just entirely of vegetables. I think the meat is definitely not ideal. I don't know if I had that in my yeah, I had it in my prompt, so that probably would need to be removed from the prompt. But let's just see what ChatGPT is doing. And after this we will wrap up and finish off this session, this workshop. So thank you so much for everyone who joined me, and hopefully you found this useful. And I'm hoping to be able to do at least one of these each month. if not more, because I have really a lot of fun experimenting with these new tools and looking at our briefs that we use for our pro members. By the way, whoever is interested in the pro membership and submitting your work and getting feedback from me, it's something you can find on our website, yesimadesigner.com, and under advanced learning you can find the pro membership there. So if you check that out, you can submit your work throughout the month, and at the end of the month I always give feedback for everything, personal projects or projects that we have on our site. And there's lots of creative briefs that you can work on and really improve your skills on how you come up with compositions. Okay, so this actually is probably the best so far. Yeah, I actually quite like this one. It's not bad. I would probably remove some of the vegetables, some of the details, but even like this it could work. Yeah, so ChatGPT's prompt adherence at the moment is the best. It's really doing an amazing job. It got the farmer right. It really looks like a happy farmer with a big mustache and a straw hat, just like I explained. The basket is not a cradle, but it looks like it could be one. And then obviously the baby is recognizable. Yeah, I'm just going to say make another one of this and try to make the baby more cute. Don't use meat for the baby. Just the other food products I mentioned earlier. Yeah, so once again, out of the 3 results that we have, of course this is not a final result, I'm just showing them side by side. If I was to present this to the client, they would have a variety of options, very distinct directions that they could choose from. And even though we utilize AI for 2 out of the 3, they look like very close to a final product. And again, like I mentioned earlier, depending on the client's preference, if they are okay to use AI or not, they will be able to decide how to move forward, and then us, the designers, will have to act accordingly. But the whole point of this presentation to the client, the initial ideas, is to just to get a feel for what they like and what they don't like, and then we could refine the directions further. And of course, if I was to present my ideas to a client, I probably would do more than 3. I would probably do around 5 to 6, maybe a bit more, maybe 8, to the level that you can see here. And out of those, I probably would just pick the 3 best that I would show to the client. So it's not good to overwhelm the client most of the time. And it's also not to just settle for the 3 first ideas that you have. So even though I like these, if I push myself a bit more and I ideate and a little bit think about it a little bit more, give myself more time, I'm sure I would be able to come up with some additional ideas, and maybe just variations on the same theme. Maybe the theme itself doesn't have to change, but yeah, there you go. So I'm not sure if I like this more, but definitely the baby is looking more like a baby now, although the head is not made up of vegetable. So even though it has meat on it, I feel like that's a little bit better, the previous result still. But yeah, you can see how you can refine your images, and ChatGPT is doing a really good job. Okay. So, yes, and Ricardo is saying that maybe this one works better in an illustrative style than photorealistic. I agree. It probably would be worth trying it out. But yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for everyone joining this session. I just bring up again the final results here. And don't forget about the contest. So we are running the contest. It still has, the deadline is I believe the 18th of April. So there's still around 2 weeks to take part in this contest. It's an amazing brief for a real charity, Amazon Aid. An amazing brief. I highly recommend to check it out. And yeah, you can find it on our website on the free learning design contests. And I will have the link in the description as well. So check that one out while it's still running. And if you are watching this later, there most likely will be another contest running. So just go to our site, design contests, and then you can enter whichever contest is currently running. All right. So thanks a lot for everyone joining. I will see you in the next one. And keep creating, keep generating, and have fun. Bye for now.